Welcome back to another episode of the Photographer's Journey podcast, guys. Today we're out here at Bay Vista Park capturing some great sunrises. Today my guest is a local St. Pete photographer, a vlogger, a YouTuber, and an Air Force veteran with PTSD who is using photography as his art and therapy. He's also leading a brand new veteran photography group called Valor Photography at the Marine Arts Center. His name is Leary, and you can find all his great sunrise photos and vlogs on Instagram at Big Air Photo and Film. Well, welcome to the podcast, Mike. Glad to finally meet you. Kind of interacted on Instagram.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, this is exciting. Glad to do it.
First of all, thank you for your service.
Thanks, I appreciate that, man.
So before we really get into the podcast, I mentioned your Valor Photography group. It's kind of brand new. I think it's kind of an important message that we should get out there. So can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, currently right now I'm participating in a program with the Marine Arts Center. It's out of their Valor Art program out of the Tampa, VA. And right now they have a glass blowing component at the Marine Arts Center. And we recently received funding to get a photography component to that. So that's really exciting. And that would directly be working with guys with TBI and PTSD that are coming directly from inpatient treatment at the Haley Hospital there in Tampa. And it would give them, access to a secondary, alternative, therapy option, which is kind of cool. And right now, like I said, they have glass blowing, which has been really popular, and we're really excited to now bring photography to it as well, and give me a chance to contribute a little bit. Sometimes in this world, I feel like I don't have a lot to contribute, so it's nice to be able to find something that I can put myself and time into because I don't have money for it. That's for sure.
That's awesome. It's definitely a great cause. And if you want more information on that, be sure check the notes or the description below. I'm going to put the information from your flyer on
and
there.
I'll try to say some more about it because we're trying to get a secondary a club that meets on a weekly basis of just anyone that's a veteran. It's going to be open to. So veterans and their families, anybody that thinks photography might be something they were interested in learning and possibly to use as therapy and stuff like that. We'll have those discussions and things along that lines and meet once a week, maybe shoot the breeze, learn a few things about photography, and kind of work it from there.
Cool. So first of all, your photos are amazing on Instagram. I noticed you do a lot of long exposures and sunrises particularly. Is there kind of a reason, story behind sunrises specifically?
Yeah, I guess there is. I mean, we were talking before, a lot of times with when I was getting sober back in the day, when I was going through an inpatient VA program, I had the opportunity to have my photography, and the morning seemed to be the most conducive time, and it seemed to be the time where I'd have the most amount of free time to myself. So I kind of had this ritual where I'd get up at 5 in the morning and try to shoot the sunrise, and kind of the theory behind that is that if I start my day that way, well, it's a pretty good way to start my day. There's a good chance that the rest of the day is going to fall into line. I don't have to worry about using it. I don't have to worry about any, any thoughts that probably don't need to be there. I can start my day in a positive way and just kind of, meet the morning, so as I say.
That's interesting. It's a good way to be more positive. I'd agree with that. Like I've said before on this podcast, I'm not a big sunrise person, but figuring meet Mike today, go ahead, get some new photos, find some place new.
Yeah.
It really does help to have this extra bit of time in your day.
It does.
It makes you feel productive and not like.
And it kind of feel like it's my personal time too, because typically there's nobody here.
Yeah.
And I can kind of go and I can think. And a lot of times I'll watch a video the night before and I'm curious to try that, and there's plenty of places to try. It's kind of cool. And like I said, I mean, when you start your day that way, I mean, how bad can your day be? I mean, you already started with an amazing sunrise. I mean, that's a good way to ground yourself. I mean, you're saying that here, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm doing my bit,
Yeah.
Trying to participate today.
It's a great way to think about it. You mentioned you spend time watching videos the night before. I mean, I think we're all kind of that way, but I noticed particularly you do a lot of long exposures. Is that just a thing you're doing right now, or did you just?
It's something I've been doing for a couple. I'm sorry, a couple of years. I keep getting that lav mic.
Oh.
With my hand. It's something I've been doing for a couple of years, and more of a serious, and just kind of playing with different exposures. They are long exposures, and a lot of times it might be more of just a vibe or maybe a mood I might be in that I might be able to, that I attach a little bit more exaggeration to my long exposure. Instead of a 10-second exposure, I might make it a 30, just because that's where I'm at for that day, and I think that I try to meet my inside with meeting the outside.
So your photos kind of connect everybody to your emotions.
I try to connect it as much as I can, because for me it's very personal. It's very it's very I don't know. It's hard when you're in the moment because you really do. I mean, you really feel like that you're connected with what's in front of you, especially having the PTSD. I think that there's a lot of things that really get to me. A lot of like secondary things, loud noises, people, things like that. So it's kind of nice to be able to kind of set the pace, and I feel as long exposures, it kind of gives me that little bit of control. The only control I might have my whole day is how I take this picture and how I'm controlling my exposure. So I like to control my exposures, I guess, by
Okay.
just kind of meeting where I'm at in the moment, and
That's
playing around with that too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still take the regular shot that I would probably normally set, but the other 10 shots afterwards are just, probably more personal shots.
okay. So we don't see everything you take.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah, but you don't see
I,
probably most of it. I put very little up on the Instagram just
uh,
because.
just the best of the best.
Well, yeah, I try to just keep solid. I don't even count the best. The best.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if I put all my good stuff up, well then, when I show it, sometimes somebody else is already going to take that shot, or they're going to see that shot, and then just, because there are a lot of photographers that I feel are way better than I am, so they'll see what I'm doing, they're going to just take it. Not
Uh,
that that's a big deal.
yeah.
I like to keep it personal for a while, then whatever.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. I think we all have shots we don't necessarily want to share.
yeah,
When I started this podcast, the whole idea is to find new places and meet new people. So I try and ask people what their favorite photography spot is, and I meet them here. Park's kind of local, but at Bay Vista Park here, is there a reason you picked this spot in particular?
yeah. I mean, for me, it was access. I mean, when I first started shooting, I mean, I, it was 2 or 3 blocks from my house, and that was a pretty amazing access point, especially when I was first starting to learn, because it gave me what looked like an amazing, big, huge open sea, but it's really just a small little city park that just happens to have these cool exposures. So I mean, it's a great place, and actually, it's my grounding point. It's like I do shoot all over the place, but when I come back here, that's that point where I kind of just okay, bring it all back. So this is my home base, I guess.
Okay,
If
that
that
seems
makes
to
any
be
sense. And like
yeah,
whenever I'm showing a veteran something, like I'll take some other people out sometimes and just show them basic things. This is the place I take them just because I'm familiar with it so much, and there's a lot of neat things to take. There's a lot of variety as far as in the
yeah.
shot
That's kind of
selection.
a constant theme. It seems like with everybody I've interviewed is that their spots are like easy access
Yeah,
for them,
yeah,
which
definitely.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the nice thing about here is that you go less than a mile down the road and you're at Bay Vista. So then you're shooting
Yeah,
sunset. So nice thing about here, this is sunrise. Well, you just go not even 10 minute, 5 minute, drive down the road, and then you shoot the sun.
sunset. Yeah,
Yeah, so you get nice thing about here is that I can walk and do both.
yeah. You guys listening, you probably can't see it, but there's a lot of amazing clouds in here. But you can actually see a good vantage point of the Skyway Bridge. In your About You section on your website, you mentioned photography has brought you many places, but it always brings you back to the Gulf. I'm curious, what are the other places you've been, and
Yeah,
what is it about them or the here that brings you back
yeah,
here?
yeah. It's a good question. I guess for here, what kind of brought me to St. Petersburg was actual therapy opportunities. When I first got out of the military, there wasn't a lot for PTSD treatment. At that time, they were still kind of putting together programs, and so St. Petersburg's been very good to me in that perspective. It's given me a chance to ground myself, I guess, and I guess I never forgot that. That was about 15 years ago, and since then, I've lived all over. I lived in Idaho, Washington State, Wisconsin. I used to climb cell towers, so I travel all over the country, and I would do change light bulbs on top of big, huge 1,000-foot towers and stuff. So,
Oh wow,
yeah, it was some pretty. So a
that's
great job for traveling. Not great job if you're PTSD because nobody's there and kind of do your own thing.
yeah.
So it worked out well. So it's given me an opportunity to travel a lot. When I was younger, I went up with people, and I traveled there, and it was a singing, dancing thing back in the day when I was younger. So I traveled all the way to Europe and
Oh wow.
Scandinavia and all over the place, and then I joined the military after that.
Okay, so everywhere you've been, what would be your second favorite place if this is your favorite?
Probably Boise, Idaho. That was another great place for me. I worked the fire season for 3 seasons, did all the communications for aviation. So I set up a little tower, an aviation tower, and a communication post, and all the helicopter operations that would be in those big forest fires out west. I would do all the communication and do the helibase setup and stuff like that. So that
That's
was kind of
that's pretty
pretty
cool.
badass back in
Yeah.
the day. Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, the thing with PTSD, I've never been able to work a conventional job. I just can't
You
do
can't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to do contract work. So I do tower climbing. I work the fire season because I have a fire science degree, and then photography's been my last 5 or 6 years. I've been able to make enough with
Okay.
photography and my little pension from the military.
Well, I guess going off that, can you talk a little bit about your PTSD? Are you comfortable with that? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you just the nuts and bolts. For me, PTSD, it's more a social thing for me. It's hard for me to engage with other people. Just I don't know what directly why that is, but for me, I've become very I feel activated, agitated. I feel like that I need to control the situation, and for me, when I can't, it creates a whole host of symptoms for me. That a lot of it is just I end up leaving the situation for the most part. But if not, it can be very intensive and it can be a little overwhelming. So, photography. That's why it's so therapeutic in that perspective. But yeah, my PTSD, it's not nearly as bad now because I couple it with therapy and
Mm.
my art therapy as well. But I also, take medication. I do go to the VA, probably once a month to do a little check-in. But mostly now my therapy's been done basically through photography and small groups and what they call a veterans alternative, kind of groups and things like that. And there are a couple of those around St. Petersburg that are really great with working with veterans in everyday situations and stuff like that.
For your art therapy, or you use this for art therapy, before the PTSD, had you ever picked up a camera, or
I
is
did,
that
yeah,
what
yeah,
caused? Just
yeah.
curious, like what created Mike the photographer?
Photography is something I guess I've always had. My dad was a photographer in the Air Force. He was a combat cameraman, so I always thought, hey, that's what I want to do. But I was little when I said all that, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But I was always interested in photography. So at that time, I got a camera for graduation, and then I went up with people. So I traveled all over the world, took my camera. It's funny because I never even took my camera out. So I had this nice little new Pentax camera, and back in the day, it was nice. But I didn't find myself ever, pulling it out like I thought I would. But I've always been interested in photography. I know a lot. I've taken a lot of classes, I've done a lot of that kind of stuff. But I just wasn't ready, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
it was later in life that I reconnected with photography, and it was nice to have that foundational base already. And then I
Yeah.
was able to attach the therapy part of it because I already had the technical, I guess, basics down and able to use it more as a tool. And
Huh.
so it kind of developed. It was kind of by
Nice.
accident. It kind of just do test trial and error.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried alcohol for use and things like that. I'm just saying there's a lot of different avenues people go to deal with their stress. For me, I mean, I did used to do like a lot of meetings and a lot of like self-help groups, but as I got older, I kind of went far from that and kind of did my own thing, and
Mm-hmm.
photography filled more of that gap. So
Yeah, that's cool. So
it's
everybody kind of finds their own way.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, and I think that if they have enough, if you can make it past that first couple of years, because it's hard the first couple of years when
I
you're
can't imagine.
first diagnosed. I mean, usually you're diagnosed through you end up in the a hospital. Like for me, I ended up in they call the flight deck, the psychiatric hospital, because I mean I didn't even know what was going on with me. They diagnosed me at the time. I didn't know what PTSD was, and then blam, you're in the hospital for whatever, and then so it's a little, and we all
Yeah,
find our own path. We all find a way to integrate it back into our lives, and some don't. Some will never get back on track, and that's unfortunate.
that's
And I,
really sad.
sad, and but I think there are opportunities there if you're willing
Mm-hmm.
to be open to them and take them because there's a lot of things. I mean, and I struggled for 10 years, and it's only now that I'm finding something that I'm moving forward with.
Oh wow, that's
So
a
it's
long
been a big
recovery. Yeah.
struggle, and these last 5 years have been wonderful, but up until then it was pretty rough. It was pretty hard
Mm-hmm.
to move
Now I
forward.
know the people listening will probably wonder. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not. Like what caused the PTSD?
Um, through my military trauma, I was involved in I was a first responder. I was like a city fireman basically, but I was a rescueman in the Air Force. So we did all the structural, all the crash for the um, the flight line, but we did all the rescue for the base, all the medical runs, everything. So when I was in active duty, I was involved in a large frame aircraft. It crashed right in front of me, and then 4 days later, there was a gunman that shot up 21 people in our base hospital. It's just those, I think those two
Man.
events that kind of sealed the deal for me. I mean, I've responded to hundreds of other calls. I mean, car accidents, other fatalities,
Mm-hmm.
suicides, everything. It's just these two events, I think, happening back to back the way they
You
did.
said like 4 days
Yeah,
apart,
and
right?
I just had a child at that time, so the when the gunman went and shot people, he went into pediatrics and shot kids and all that stuff. So I mean, I think there's just a lot of things that just kind of attached me to those moments. Not
Hmm.
only being the first responder, but just on a personal level because I knew a lot of those people that were, injured and killed during that day.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, so that's kind of where I think where my major part of my trauma went. But it's kind of funny because ever since, all the other little traumas probably add to it as well, like all the other things I did in the past,
Yeah.
because it kind of
Kind
seemed
of
like it all went
built
to,
up to it, but
I mean, just how
that
at
was a
once
big
it came
impact.
into me,
Yeah.
and then it became just way more than I could. It was almost better
Uh,
not knowing what was wrong with me,
hmm.
than having to deal with the work that it took to get past that part.
Yeah. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I can't even
Makes you
imagine.
stronger, right?
Yeah, I mean, after all that and hearing you be so positive, that's quite incredible, actually. I know you said alcohol. I know a lot of people probably go to alcohol,
Yeah,
and
yeah, 4 years without a drink.
that's congratulations.
Thanks, appreciate that.
I mentioned it in the intro. You're also a YouTuber
Mhm.
too, which is conveniently where you can also find the video version of this podcast at Red Focus Entertainment or in the description below. But your channel, it's the same name as your Instagram handle, right? Big Air
Yes, yep,
Photo and
yep.
Film. Your latest video, you go into the 3 ways to photography helps with your PTSD.
Correct, yep.
You go into quite detail on that, so I don't want to spoil it. I think you can go check out his video, link in the description. Yeah, so you go through a lot of tips. Can you give like a quick rundown of your
Yeah,
three
sure.
tips? I
Yeah,
found it really interesting.
yeah. On the last video I focused on 3 tips, and I'll just kind of give you the basics of it. The first tip was for me, just being a photographer, and stuff, just the actual grabbing the camera to me is that grounding point. It just kind of in therapy and stuff like that, we talk a lot about being mindful and being awareness of where you're at, being present in the moment. And for me, grabbing my camera, that's that moment that kind of brings me there. So that's my first moment where I kind of become present to the moment. And then my second part is just kind of like the shot itself, like what it takes to go to take the shot. So for me, a lot of times I'll create like a little adventure in my head a little bit. So maybe I'll do a little hike mixed in with it. So I try to make something that kind of makes me feel like I'm moving forward in perspective. And also when I get there, it's that moment that I get to meet the moment, like for sunrise, for instance. It's I'm there that moment, so I mean it's pretty cool. I mean I meet that moment, and that's where another grounding point for me. That's my second part of grounding in the morning, part of the ritual. And then I guess the last part is just the expression and just the social media part of it. For me, PTSD doesn't isn't very great for me socially. I can't be around large groups of people. I mean, I can. I just don't prefer to be around people
Hmm.
that much. So it's nice to be able to interact with people like through social media, through Instagram, through YouTube, through people's podcasts, things like that. To kind of at my own terms, kind of interact with the world and let people know about what I do and who I am, and
Yeah,
uh, and in that perspective. So that's like the third component. The third component is just the part where it kind of forces me to kind of reach out. It kind of to take some chances. That's where I take chances, like take putting a picture up, things like that. And it's also where I would find like I've been doing warrior sailing a lot, which has been cool. Another thing for being a veteran and to
hmm,
use my photography is that I've been an opportunity with other veteran organizations to link up with them and get to be part of their little adventure as well as be able to tell my own story through it. So it's been kind of cool. So that part's been great. So those are the big 3 focus points that I did this last video on. Just kind of maybe explain more in depth in the
that's
video.
awesome. Yeah, the third one really caught my attention because I hear both sides of it. Like Instagram takes up so much time. It's bad to be on your phone that long.
Sure.
Or sort of the same way we're like meeting the community online. Like that's how I met Cleargram and
Right.
all these other
Exactly.
photographers and you and mainly everybody else on the podcast.
Yeah, no,
So
no,
it's
it has been given. It gives me a great opportunity. And then days I don't feel like engaging too, I don't have the pressure. I don't. I mean, it's social media, so I don't like. Oh, I don't have to post something if I don't feel it.
right.
Sometimes I felt that first, like, oh, I should post something every day if I can. Well, I'm not there now. I mean, I was there then. Now
Yeah.
it's I post when I feel I have something to say.
Cool. And
Things along
then
that lines.
so did the vlogging video stuff come kind of in between when you're on your journey and
Yeah,
stuff?
actually, that's a whole new journey. That's a 4 months ago start journey, but that's been something that I thought that would be kind of a cool complement to maybe the PTSD group. The club type, the
Yeah.
weekly meetings that we have, things like that. Maybe it can be an opportunity to explain things that maybe I can't explain at that time, to other people. And it's also maybe just to be able to kind of keep that narrative going with the PTSD, photography, and therapy. And so I thought that would be kind of a neat little way to bridge it and kind of keep me going forward too. It's a good way to kind of gauge where I'm at, in my life. I can look back 4 months ago and see,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, look at how weak that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's a good way to kind of reflect and see where you're at, to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
And,
it's
and the nice thing about YouTube too, you can kind of control some aspects of it. You can, if I was one of those guys that could write things down and do 1,000 takes, I would and do it perfect. But I did one take kind of guy.
yeah.
And like I was saying before, I do 101 takes. So, it becomes, but it's been such a great learning experience. And like I said, there's just a progression the last couple of months has been kind of cool. Just, definitely piques my interest in a lot of different new ways now.
That's
So,
cool. Yeah, you can definitely see the growth, and from the first video to even just now.
yeah, no, I think it's
That's
cool. I think it's, yeah, hopefully that's the way it should be.
yeah,
It should be moving forward.
yeah. Do you have anything else you want to talk about that I may have not
I
mentioned?
think that was like the main part. I think the main part was just kind of let people know about the club and stuff, and that
Okay.
there are opportunities. Because I know when I first like kind of felt like when I first went to like get treatment and stuff for PTSD, they have a very formal programs and stuff like that at the VA, and there was nothing that was kind of like a secondary or like after, like when you leave the program, then there's
Then what?
nothing
Yeah.
supportive afterwards. So I thought maybe like a club type environment would be a place where somebody could learn something new, or take something like, say that there are a few photographers that are really good photographers, and just help them go to the next level, because you have all the access to the Maureen Arts Center and all the support of that. So
Yeah.
damn, it gives a lot of opportunities. Hopefully, I mean,
Now, I would typically ask like any photography tips you have for a beginner, but I think I'll switch it up for this one because you've been through a lot, and PTSD is a big
sure.
part, and I know mental health is a big issue. Do you have like a message you'd want to say to anybody suffering from PTSD, mental health issues that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, for me, I struggled a lot, and probably a lot more than most. I think. I, you know, going through my, I don't know, my path or whatever. It wasn't always an easy path. So I think that, it's important for me to always extend my hand to other people, just because I know that a lot of times no hand was extended. I know that unfortunately, to get the help that I needed, I had to basically do it myself, because I had to be my own advocate. And I think it's important that people become their own advocate, and that PTSD, that's just what happened to you. It's not who you are. It's just something that, it doesn't define you. And and people need to know that there are ways to live and to move forward with it. And for me, I mean, I kind of integrated into my whole life, just to keep me moving forward in that perspective, because it was such a burden, this thing to me, that I felt that I had to be aware of it every day. And so by my photography, and by doing things like this, and participating in other outpatient type meetups with veterans. Um, yeah, so I guess my key there would be persistence, that there is help available, and there's a program for everybody, I believe. You just have to be willing to find it. Sometimes you have to find it yourself. So, and there are other people that are going through it too. Just remember that too, that you're not the only one, that there are others too, and that, and I don't know. It's I just realized that in life there can be so much more. And for me, that, I mean, the PTSD part was such a thing, because I mean, I sat and drank in a fucking hotel room for 3 years, and just climbed a couple towers, made a couple grand, and I mean, it was bad, but yeah. So I mean, it definitely,
Yeah, but you
it,
have to have those dark moments
you
to
do, it ebb
appreciate
and
the light.
flows, and
Yeah.
it definitely ebb and flows. And I think that that's the nice thing about photography too, is that I can kind of put that moment, like if I'm having a tough time, I can kind of work through it, and I can kind of feel like I got that picture or whatever, and then I can let it go. I mean, I feel like, like when I take a picture and I put it up on Instagram, I don't go back, and I don't care if people, I get 100 likes, or if I get 500 likes. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll answer everybody that, whatever, because I think it's important to, but I'm not going to get worried about, oh, I didn't get 500, my shot didn't do as good as his shot or whatever.
Yeah. Don't worry about the
No,
numbers.
because
Yeah.
it doesn't. That's not what it is about. I know amazing guys that have 100 followers. That do it full time every day, way more, a higher level than I would ever do it.
Hmm.
And what, they have 100 followers, that doesn't mean they're not. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate about sometimes social media, is that sometimes it kind of puts people into
The
certain,
numbers, yeah.
the numbers get kind of.
I just can see where you start to get sucked into it, but like when
Yeah,
you get it,
and sometimes and then the numbers in the beginning were kind of kept me going. I was like, oh, I was excited,
yeah,
like, oh,
that
1,000 followers,
quick
oh,
dopamine
2,000.
hit,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was like, yeah, oh, this is cool, you know, because I was getting acceptance on my own terms. I was
yeah,
doing it the way I wanted to do it, and it was working. At that time in my life, very few things were working out, so
yeah.
that's why I think
So
photography was a good fit. It kind of.
be sure to check the description below or the show notes for his new group, Active Valor Photography, and if you have any links for
Yeah,
other mental health help, I'll be sure to put that down below because I think that's an important
yeah.
message to at least get out there. Um, but other than that, you can be sure to check out his YouTube channel and Instagram, Big Air Photo and Film. It's Michael Leary. He's doing some great work. Amazing sunrise shots.
And also, I
Yeah.
guess, why I have the thing. One quick shout out to for all veterans out there. Anybody that's a honorably discharged veteran. This photography group's open to everyone that's been a veteran, and all you need is your 214. And like I said, it's open to everyone, and so it could be a good place to kind of meet, kind of hang out, and you talk photography and talk whatever else too. So. I just want everyone to know that it's a veteran, that this group is open to all of you and to everyone that meets that criteria. And
All right.
hopefully in the next couple of weeks, hopefully next month, we'll have a solid date in place and be able to go from there.
All right. Awesome.
Uh,
And that should be pretty close by the time this episode releases. So,
yeah, nice.
yeah, be sure to check that out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right, everyone. Peace out.